Tonight, from the edge of America, Grover Norquist had a difficult time answering a very simple question about the Muslim Brotherhood while appearing as a guest on this show. Now he's under investigation. You agree that the Muslim Brotherhood falls in that category of bad guys?
Yes, I suppose so, but the thesis that I know all about it and I'm part of a conspiracy is wrong. I know about it as much as you do from reading in the newspapers.
The Iraqi Prime Minister sends out an urgent message to the world. He warns that ISIS could become unstoppable.
As a security measure, cars are not allowed to cross this bridge. But this is the only way to reach Baghdad. Those fleeing the violence pile their belongings, children and elderly, into metal carts.
We are joined by this week's Viewer of the Week contest winner.
Now, you're the next contestant on That Price is Right. Come on!
All that plus our Mama Luke of the day and more next on The Rick Amato Show. All right, welcome everybody from the edge of America. I'm Rick Amato. We are following this One American News developing story. As reported here on this show last night, the group Judicial Watch is reporting that ISIS is operating a base just 10 miles south of the El Paso, Texas border. But my problem with this report is that it only cites Mexican military and law enforcement officials. It does not cite any U.S. intelligence or law enforcement personnel. Tom Fitton, the president of Judicial Watch, appeared as a guest last night on this show, and he claimed that that is only because the U.S. establishment authorities do not want to publicly admit the existence of ISIS on the U.S. border. He says that the establishment is participating, I should say, in a cover-up of the facts. I still have problems with that statement, because what about those thousands of U.S. Border Patrol agents, ICE agents, and other U.S. law enforcement and military personnel that are not part of the establishment? Common sense says someone would come forward as a whistleblower. Now, joining me this time to comment on this story are two gentlemen whose opinions we should very much be interested in. Johnny Walker. Johnny, first of all, served as an Iraqi Muslim interpreter for the U.S. Navy SEALs. And American sniper Chris Kyle called him his brother. Also with us in studio is a good friend, old friend of mine, Nick the Cigar Marine Popovich. Nick was a tank commander at the fall of the statue of Saddam. Nick, good to see you.
Thanks for having me on.
Johnny Walker, let's start with you. When you hear Mexican authorities telling Mexican authorities are being quoted in U.S. media that ISIS is operating just 8 to 10 miles south of the Texas border, do you believe that could be true?
For me, I'm not surprised, because if you look at American policy, the last few years, it looks like we became magnetic to all the extremist Muslim to come over to the United States without any plan, you know. And for me, I'm not totally surprised to hear that. And my big concern, how about if we can have another 9/11?
Right.
In America.
Of course.
So why we wait disaster happen until we respond? Why we are not responding from now?
When you say U.S. policies are like a magnet to the extremists, specifically, what are you referring to?
I mean, I know some people, they can knock my door within the next few days. I meant President Obama. I mean, what are you waiting for? Today, they bomb Chancellor in Erbil, American Chancellor, heavy bomb in capital of Kurdistan. So what are we waiting for? To strike ISIS with heavy strike. I mean, why we give them chance to be extremist monster? We cannot run it. So there is a lot of a question from my understanding.
And again, you were a Muslim Iraq interpreter for U.S. Navy SEALs in Iraq, and you bring a lot of credibility to the table on this issue. Nick Popovich, you also, of course, bring a lot of credibility to the table. Do you trust this story that cites Mexican law enforcement and Mexican military members only?
Well, I'm skeptical of just about any story I read in the media anymore, but it does highlight two very critical failures in our foreign policy right now. And one of them is the concept of preemption, and that under this administration, America's retreat from leadership in the world, because you either go fight them there or you're going to fight them here. And if they keep moving those training camps closer and closer, eventually they're going to put them here in our own country. Either go get them there or you're fighting them in the Mall of America. And the second thing, as far as just because our administration officials are saying it's not true, I don't believe them anymore. I don't believe anything they say anymore.
But wouldn't you expect a Border Patrol agent or a ICE agent or a military personnel to be leaking information to the media?
I'm glad you brought that up. Well, first, the Border Patrol, their authority is going to end at that border. They're not going to go one step over beyond it.
Right.
But with regard to the military, they have a chain of command. And look at Bo Bergdahl. That's a perfect example of it. This guy was guilty as sin, a traitor, and yet the administration is out touting him as a hero, all the way up to the top that Admiral Mullins knew he was a deserter. And we're trading five Taliban terrorists for a deserter. Mm-hmm. You know, this we leave no man behind, that ends when you desert. You know, and their total lack of concept of what the military stands for, what it should be used for. And in my opinion, terrorists out and abroad the world, you either go fight them there or you'll be fighting them here.
And that, of course, is what George W. Bush had said. We're going to fight them there, we're going to fight them here. It may as well be there. Again, your point well taken about Border Patrol agents. Their job ends at the border. But in that report, it also said that had reports of coyotes sneaking ISIS members across the border. I would just think that border agents would know that.
No, I agree with you, Rick. That's one thing that generally makes me doubt any conspiracy theories. If three of us were to try and keep a secret, one of us would eventually tell it. So, well, maybe not in this crew, but normally you take a group of people, somebody's eventually going to tell, and then you take a conspiracy theory that involves thousands, you can't keep it quiet. So I would be skeptical for that reason as well.
Now, switching gears on another topic, and I'm going to start with you, Johnny. The Iraqi prime minister, your native country, was in Washington yesterday, and he was sent a warning out to the world. He said that if ISIS is left unchecked, then they could become unstoppable. Now, he said this, of course, while Iraqi cities are being plundered by ISIS. What do you? So the U.S. has stepped up the bombing. Latest reports: U.S. has stepped up the bombing in the province of Anbar, while Iraqi citizens are fleeing Anbar. What would you like to see President Obama do that he's not doing currently to defeat ISIS in Iraq?
So first of all, we have like different players in Iraq. So one of them Iran, one of them Saudi, one of them Turkish, and one of them militia and ISIS, and the honest people, among all those people. So let me turn your question ankle. Why all the Iraqi politic? They saying we don't need Americans, we need to kick him out from Iraq, and right now they ask to strike ISIS. So this is unthankful for me. This is one. Second things, the Prime Minister, he warning all the time because he just want to get public support, international support to his case. But the issue is not about the support. The issue is with the corruption of the Iraqi government. You cannot protect your house if you have corruption.
So if the U.S. brings weapons over, those weapons get into the wrong hands.
Where's going to go? Like why the United States, they don't give Iraqi government the airstrike, like F-16, because they know for sure they're going to go to Iran. And from Iran to Syria, from Syria to Hezbollah in Lebanon, from Hezbollah to Houthi in Yemen. So it's kind of complicated. And also, Iraqi government, they give some Iraqi tribe leaders weapons before in 2007 and 2008, and the weapon end up with Iraqi Islamic State.
It is a mess, as you say, and it may, you know, it's just a shame President Obama withdrew those 10,000 U.S. troops there, which led to the instability. All right, Nick, the Cigar Marine Popovich, you'll join us later in the show as part of our panel. Johnny Walker, we thank each of you for shedding some light on this important issue. So who will be our Mama Luke of the day? That's coming up after the break. Is there no end to the wage discrepancy talk? Hear who President Obama thinks deserves a salary. From the Edge of America, I'm Rick Amato. We're back after this.
Right now, Michelle's not getting paid anything, and she points that out. But before we got to the White House, when she was working, I wanted her to get paid the same as a man did. Because if she was getting paid, that money accrued to our account, just as her expenses accrued to our account.